Peace, and welcome back to another exciting episode of Cook on Quarantine. Uh, this is going to be really interesting because I've never got an opportunity to really get to hear and learn from one of the people that could have been in that movie, Top Gun. This woman is a veteran, a pilot, a fitness guru, inspirational Instagrammer. I caught her on IG giving out positive messages to the people. And so I'm sure she'll have some positivity to share based on her own life experience. I'm interested in getting into her story to hear more about, what she cares most about. And I think she'll have a lot to say about how to make the most on quarantine. I'm just guessing because, y'all got to deal with that right now. So thank you, Miss Alexis Rose.
Thank you for having me.
Yeah. How you feeling today?
Feeling pretty good.
So yeah, when I first came across your profile on Instagram, I was like, oh shit, she flies planes. So how did you first get into being a pilot? Was that something you always wanted to do when you grew up, or how did that happen?
So ironically, there were three things I wanted to be when I was really young. It was either an artist, an archaeologist, or an astronaut. All completely different professions, but just based off of the things that I was engaged in school and the things that I really gravitated towards, those are all like big highlights for me. And it wasn't until I hit college that I pretty much was presented with an opportunity to pursue being a pilot. And so, in essence, when I found out what was required to become an astronaut, I was already a junior in college. And I was like, I'm not staying in school for another 7 years. I'm not ready for that right now. Mm-hmm. So I took the opportunity to become a pilot in the Air Force, which I was on an ROTC scholarship. So I had to serve back regardless my time into the military. And so it was very competitive. I didn't realize just how competitive it was, but it was pretty dang competitive. They look at your leadership skills and they look at your grade point average as well. And they put you in the gonculator, and somehow they have so many definitive amounts of pilot slots. So I got one. And from there, I was like, okay, well, what happens next? I never pursued a private pilot's license. Flying was not anywhere in my family either. So it's completely new on every realm, on both sides of my family. I didn't know any pilots. But yeah, the opportunity was there right in college. So I said, yes, let's go for the adventure. I get to touch the sky. Why not?
Yeah, I like that Kanye West song, Touch the Sky.
Oh, yeah. Mm-hmm.
Where'd you grow up?
So I was born in Southern California, but I grew up in Texas most of my life. So okay. I spent all of my grade school years in Texas, did college in Texas, started my career in Texas. But I have family all throughout California on both sides of my family.
Okay. Where in Texas?
Fort Worth, Austin, San Antonio.
Okay.
Went to school in College Station. So Texas A&M University. Went to undergraduate pilot training with the Air Force at Laughlin, which is in Del Rio, Texas, and Corpus Christi, Texas. So yeah, just had my fair share of a big state. Yeah.
Are you still in the military?
I am part-time. So about 2 years ago, I got out of active duty, full-time active duty Air Force. And I've just been doing it part-time from here on out as a reservist here in Northern California. And I'm still serving to a great degree, and I enjoy it a little bit more, actually, just because I have a little bit more balance, which is ultimately what I was going for.
Did you serve overseas? Were you in any of the wars that happened recently?
So I was in Iraq as my first deployment, in Afghanistan. But I've also spent time in Puerto Rico and Germany and Guam. And I actually had 2 years that I stayed in Japan. And that's a fun experience, actually. It was a really fun experience.
In Japan?
2 years in Japan, yeah. Yep. And I know it's a country a lot of people are afraid to go to because you're pretty much a functioning illiterate, right? but the people there are so respectful and nice. It's a great culture.
Mm.
But yeah, I've had my fair share in the sandbox, as they say. But I felt like I've had my chance to interact with a lot of veterans downrange, being in the wartime combat zone. And from the interactions you get from all different walks of life, different branches of the military, different professions, tasks that they're doing, you kind of see where you fit into the whole machine of what's going on over there. And as people are saying, thank you for your service, when we're back in the States, I'm saying thank you for your service for the Army folks, the Marine folks, and anyone who's actually like hands-on, like on the ground, like doing all the convoys. Like I had the pleasure of transporting them to and fro, but just talking to them about some of their experiences is just like, it humbles you. It really humbles you. And like I said, I've had my experiences too. And, everyone else's experiences can be worse than yours. And so you just you find a way to like show gratitude and be humble for what you've had and what everyone else is given to. So, yeah.
I'm a fan of the Jocko podcast. I don't know if you ever get a chance to check out his or hear about his podcast, but he's a Navy SEAL veteran and he talks a lot about combat and leadership lessons. And one of my mentors actually was a Marine pilot, and he's much older. But I kind of heard about different planes from him. What did you fly?
I flew C-130s, and there's a new version of C-130s right now, but I flew the E and the H model. So they call it the legacy models. So they're kind of like the workhorse of the Air Force. And the Marines actually have a version of the C-130s as well. C-130s, they go in and out of like all the austere airfields or like really poor environments or dirt strips or gravel or sides of the mountain, or we do airdrops. So the missions are pretty versatile, but it's kind of glamorous, when you think about it, but at the same time, it's you're sweating quite a bit, because you're doing a lot. You're doing a lot when you get out there. So like I miss that plane. I love that plane. What I fly right now is an unmanned aircraft. It doesn't have any armament on it, but it's actually a different view, a different perspective. So with the C-130, I was out there actually interacting with the people and the cargo and all the stuff that was on the ground and putting them on my aircraft or doing aeromedical evacuations and seeing firsthand how my presence there is an effect for the people or for the environment immediately around it, right? Now I'm in a position where I'm like the big eye in the sky and I don't have that direct interaction, but then you see what's going on in the big picture. So big eye in the sky, big picture versus C-130s is, a very small postage stamp of what happens with this massive jigsaw puzzle.
With the Jocko podcast, when veterans talk to other veterans, they can kind of get into a lot of like what it was actually like. But talking to a civilian is kind of like, people are a little more reserved.
Well, it's not only a little bit more reserved, but it's one, don't want to scare you. Two, don't want to say as much jargon that makes it so that you can't understand what we're trying to say.
Right.
And three, don't want to leave you out either, because if we're going way down this rabbit hole, you're like, well, I have no idea what you're talking about. This is beyond my even imagination. Right. So again, trying to make it relatable so you get the picture. And then, just like a lot of experiences, you can relay as much as you can, but you can't really put someone in someone else's shoes completely.
Getting a pilot's license or pilot's license through like private courses is something that I considered, looked up on YouTube, and maybe one day I'll go about doing that. But I saw a documentary once about the earliest foundings of NASA and how it got its sort of birth out of the Air Force, and there was sort of this more eccentric service member that was doing all these crazy experiments and creating these large balloons to kind of leave Earth's orbit. And so, which is all to say that I'm only bringing that up because I know that NASA has ties to the Air Force, and it's not too late. You can still be an astronaut. I think that's fine.
That's true. And I have a couple of friends who have applied. That is very true. Yeah. But like I said, it's still a lot of work. And now I'm in a different stage in life, and I want to work on some other things.
Yeah, I
So yeah.
want to get into that. I want to get into that because you so you're part-time active military in the reserves, and you also are a commercial airline pilot. Is that how you
Mhm.
say that?
Yep. Yep.
Okay.
That's exactly
And
how you
so
say that. Yeah.
what airline do you fly for?
I'll hold off on saying that. Just know that it's a major airline.
Cool. So we can get into the nitty-gritty of what it's like. You can't say the name. All right. So constantly switching time zones and then not staying in a place for long and all this, just the length of the flights. So it just seems like it's kind of hard on the body. And obviously you're a military person, so you're used to hard stuff. But what's sort of been like for you to transition to that role? What's the experience been like flying commercial?
So awesome for even being able to understand some of that stuff as far as like time zone and how it affects the body and physiologically. Because yeah, in the military, you experience it pretty quickly. And again, with my C-130 background, it's a relatively short range aircraft, so you don't fly across the ocean very easily.
Mhm.
It's like, okay, we fly like 2 hours and land, and I think my max flight was about 8 hours. And again, that was across the ocean. So
Mhm.
it took that long. Whereas a jet airplane would take only like 4 or 5 hours. So getting back to all the different experiences that you get that make flying a little exhausting, transitioning from a C-130, again, short range, and military, so very tactical, demanding flying, to commercial airlines. On top of that, you find that, oh, I have a lot more time to chill out on the ground. So being tactical flying, you're there like on the ground for a minimal amount of time, just enough to get rested, get some food, and be back on the road again.
Mm.
With airlines, it can get that way, but it's not that often. More often than not, you have a longer period of time to get adjusted, enjoy the location a little bit, and then usually get back on the road and yeah, continue on with your job.
Mhm.
So I've been part of two different airlines now, a regional and a major airline. And so the regional airline reminded me more of flying C-130s because again, your trips are relatively short.
Mhm.
Again, time zones are not as affected, but because the short time on the ground, again, you're having to like, all right, go to sleep now and wake up now. You have barely enough time to either eat or work out, and then you're back on the road.
Diversity representation and sort of like your field of work. You're the first Black female pilot that I've ever spoken to, and so
I
I
get
feel
that a
like,
lot. I get that a
yeah,
lot. Yeah.
okay.
Mhm.
And we could all just be ignorant. It could be a ton of y'all that we just never heard of. But
Yep.
I feel like I kind of want to hug you because I found you. It's like, oh, there she is.
We do exist.
We out here too. Speak a little bit just about like if that has affected your experience at all. What it's like in terms of trying to get people into the field. I do a lot of work with tech, and a lot of the focus on diversity has mostly been on tech as of late. But
Mhm,
there's no diversity in banking or
mhm,
consulting or
mhm.
medicine. There's like a lack of diversity in many spaces.
Yeah.
So you represent someone from a diverse background in this space. Like, what are your general perceptions about that?
It's interesting because, like, I never surprisingly, I never even looked at it when I first got in.
Hmm.
So, it was one of those, I know what I wanna do, I know what I wanna go for, so I'm just gonna go for it, not looking at all the barriers to entry. And that being the case, I think being blind a little bit to that just kinda kept me focused, kept me having that tunnel vision. At the same time, not realizing that this could also be a platform to expose others. And it wasn't until my later years that I finally realized, like, oh my gosh, yeah, I need to expose others because, others may not even realize that it could be a dream or what the path is. And that just goes for all females and then all Black females, and then all Black people. So it just, there's so many different circles that I could touch, just showcasing that yes, it can be done. And so with women in commercial airlines, it's about 5, I think it's grown to about 6% now of all airlines in the world are women.
Mm-hmm.
So it's very, very, very small. And I don't know what the percentage is for Black females in America, but I know most of the major airlines, and I can count how many there are on those, so very small group of people. And I don't know what the exact statistics are in the Air Force or in the military in general either. But again, very, very, very small group of people. So if, someone says my name, oh yeah, I know who that is, So I love being part of, this group that could represent so much. And it's very comforting to know that there is a group also, because everywhere I've gone, I've been one, if not two, of my kind, if you will. For some, that could be like, oh, geez, you're kind of representing a lot. That's kind of a burden, but I don't look at it that way. I look at it as, hey, I'm a person. You need to treat me with the respect of another person, especially in this field, of another professional. And as long as that's being showcased, there usually is no issue with that. Now, are there underlying cases? Yeah, where that's a lot different. All I can say is keeping the eyes on the prize. That's been my saving grace for a while, to get stuff done, get what you want out of it, and make it serve you, is to keep that eye on the prize and recognizing that barriers are there, but overcoming them just by being credible, working hella hard, and
There you go. Now you're from Cali. There you go.
yeah.
We got her now, Texas.
Coming out, yeah.
Have her back.
You hear the Texas draw at all, so.
I'm sorry to interrupt you. I just had to, go ahead.
Oh yeah, represent. I get it. So yeah, like it's but that's the kind of motivation and drive I've had from my parents, from my surroundings, and I just kind of kept to it, so I don't know if that's the same for a bunch of other people, but I know some people just had the drive because they love flying. And for me, I love the adventure. I want the adventure. I want to travel. I'm, and I have good hand-eye coordination. That happens to be that I can fly, but I want the adventure. And so I do not want to stop from having the adventure and exploring other countries and other cultures and other people, and really just to spread the love without boundaries.
I think what's especially important about what you do is that it's based on competency. It's like you have to do the job well, and and because people's lives are in your hands, and so you got to commit yourself to that. The skills that you've gained make you incredibly useful to just like whatever community that you're a part of, and having to gain those skills either through school or through the military. And I know you have a big emphasis on fitness that I want to get into, but just being good at whatever it is you're participating in is like critical.
For sure. And like and especially while I was becoming an Air Force African-American pilot, we had a good support for each other and ensuring, and we kind of beat each other up a little bit when it came to this, but be so good, no one can call you out for anything else. Like you can't be called out for not being good at your job. Don't give anybody else an excuse to call you out, So as long as we had competency and we had good hands, no one could touch you.
A good friend of mine is a police officer. I have like two friends that are cops, and one of them was like a good friend of mine, right? I wanted to kind of get into like, I know the connection between military and law enforcement is sometimes linked, sometimes not. But this is a funny story. He and his wife are both cops. And when she was in the police, his now wife was in the police academy. We were having a conversation, and she said to me, I want to be so good that bitches hate me. I know you're too dignified to talk, like that on the podcast, especially, but she was like, I just want to be so good that they hate me. They're like, damn, she's good. I can't stand her. And that's not what you said just now at all. But that reminded me of that story. So you compete though, like you're a competitor, like you did some professional bodybuilding. Is that correct?
Yep, that's correct.
Where would you say, before we get into that aspect of your life, your competitiveness comes from? Like if I were to challenge you to like push-ups right now, would you take me up? Would you take me up on a push-up challenge?
You know what's funny is I'm competitive, but I don't showboat.
Mm-hmm.
So in my mind, I'd be like, "Ooh, I got this guy." But I won't
Oh,
say
you
it out
think you can
loud.
take me? Okay. All right. Off camera, we gonna see. I can't record it if I lose. You guys gotta. But go ahead.
So yeah, and like I think a lot of my competitiveness just comes from not out nowhere outside of myself. So, and this started from grade school. It's like, oh man, I got like a 70 on that test. Well, I'm going to do better next time.
Mm,
And so that competitiveness was always with myself. I want to improve. I want to get better for no other reason, just to be like, I'm a whole lot better than what I was. I had growth, you know?
mhm,
And then eventually it started to get to be a little bit more defined, smart details on what kind of goal setting I wanted. But for a long time, it was just like, ooh, I was 5 times better than I was last time.
there
That's the
you go.
same. That's been the case with almost everything that I've engaged in. And of course, when it comes to competition outside of myself, it's just like, okay. Because, like, I feel like competition with yourself makes you more confident and have more self-esteem so that you can do anything that you want to do. Like nothing becomes scary, nothing becomes daunting
Mhm,
because you're like, well, I already know that I can compete with myself. I already know I can improve in anything that I put my mind to. The world's the limit. I honestly feel like competition is a beautiful thing. I think it's where it's directed is
mhm.
the questionable part, and how long it's going to last is, another questionable part.
Yeah, we're definitely trying to phase out competition as a society, and I think it's going to be to the detriment of our young people and our communities. Because one
Mm,
of the things that you also mentioned, just about, I mean, being a Black person, like flying in as a pilot, there's a lot of underrepresentation. But the first thing you kind of have to get over is yourself, and the
for sure.
imposed barriers, the internalized suppression that you may
Mm-hmm.
engage in, that's going to keep you from moving forward, because there are real barriers. The most significant ones are the ones we place on ourselves. And
Yeah.
so you're obviously practicing that.
Mhm.
Uh, Anything you want to say about respond to that before we get into the bodybuilding?
Well, let's roll right in.
Okay, cool.
Yeah.
So how did you get that started? How long you been doing that, and what sort of prompted that?
Okay, so the last uh it was actually in 2014
Hmm.
timeframe. I
Okay.
just returned to the States from living in Japan and flying C-130s. I changed airframes, and I decided to get into fitness. Being a pilot, naturally, actually a sedentary job, for the most part. And then being in Japan, I just ate every bowl of ramen in sight. It
There you
was,
go.
for as much as you walk in Japan, you don't lose any weight because you just keep eating very delicious, beautifully done food.
Mm,
So, yeah, getting back to the States, I think I had like a fitness assessment that I had to do with the military. And
mm,
I noticed that my typical run time was not stellar. So again, that competition with myself was like, what
mm,
just happened? That
uh,
is not okay.
right.
So flying this new airframe, it allowed me to have a regular schedule, which I was surprised by. So I'm like, I have a regular schedule. That means I can go to the gym at regular times and have a routine. Let me make this happen. And so I hired a coach because I tried doing it on my own. And I don't think I was challenging myself enough.
Mm,
So I hired a coach. And before I knew it, I was like, "Ooh!" Again, that self-competition mode. I was like, "Man, this burns, this hurts. Let me do it better. Let me
mhm,
go faster. Let me lift heavier." And before I knew it, I was like, "Okay, this is good." My coach noticed, and he's like, "All right, so what's your big goal? Are you just wanting to lose weight, or are you wanting to do a competition?" And I was like, "Competition? What do you mean?" He's like, "These fitness competitions." And I was like, yes. And
uh-huh,
that's mainly because when I was a kid, I was big into comic books. Most of the women in comic books are just very feminine, but very strong, curvy, and super muscular at the same time. And that to me was always an ideal. It's just that strong and while being graceful and feminine all at one package. I'm like, yes, sign me up. So I was like, yeah, let's do this. And he's like, all right, here's what's going to happen. He told me all of the scary stuff. And I'm like, okay. Because all I had was just like, I want to look like that.
Locked in, tunnel vision.
Yeah, locked in tunnel vision. And I did that for about 7 months of training, which was pretty aggressive before I did my first competition. And I won my category. So I was in 2 categories. So one of them I won, and the other one I ended up being like third, just because I was too
What do the
muscular.
categories mean? What does that mean?
Oh, okay. So I'm with World Beauty Fitness and Fashion, so WBFF, and they have, for women, you can do bikini, fitness, or figure. And I was in between weights and in between physiques, like what it actually looks like for each of those categories. So my coach put me in bikini, which usually means that you have a curvy yet soft physique, in the sense, soft meaning like you don't have a lot of definition. And then figure, the figure girls, so like on the other end of the spectrum, are like super muscular, so they have volume, and very lean, so you can see like every sinew of their muscles. So right in between that is fitness, where you're athletic looking, you have some curves, but you also have some definition, and your muscles are a little bit bigger. So I fit right in the middle. And because I didn't, at that time, again, my first competition, at that time, I was larger than a lot of other bikini girls, but I was a little on the soft side. But in the middle, with that fitness, I looked very athletic still without being too defined. You could still see my muscles, but not too defined. So I was in both of those. And it was the bikini one that I ended up in third. And then it was the fitness category that I came in first. From then on out, I just competed in fitness. But, once you get that rush of, oh my gosh, I went through this entire journey and got up on stage, something happened from it. I was already happy with my physique. I was like, I'm going to do this again and get better. Right. I want to compete. I ended up being a pro right then and there. So they put me in the pro category. So I was like, oh my gosh, yeah, let's do this. But I can tell you initially, I was just like, when I first said I was going to be part of a competition, I was like, all right, I'll just do it once because it's something I've always wanted to do and call it good. But then after that, you get a little taste of more and better and faster and stronger and all that stuff. So I ended up doing it another 2 times.
You're very interesting. It's kind of like these are things that I don't think that people would necessarily connect to each other. Like you have to be very intelligent and capable to fly a plane. That's like I would imagine that's as much of a mental competitive thing as it is the technical ability of learning how to fly. So you wouldn't necessarily associate that with a bodybuilder because of the stereotypes we have with people that are sort of in that space. What sounds like is connected to your focus on doing that was a competition within yourself. Like, oh, okay, I want to see if I can push myself to do this. And then the venue became the deadline, like the opportunity to showcase what you had done for yourself. Right.
Sure. Yep.
What are some of and I'm sure you're aware of the perceptions of people that do bodybuilding. I've never done it. How does that connect to the people that you've met that kind of do that on a regular basis?
So I've met all walks of life. I actually do bodybuilding, from the stay-at-home mom to the, personal trainer to the doctor to a finance person or a lawyer. So I've seen the whole gambit, and for the most part, everyone has this drive of, oh, I want to get better than I was before. A lot of them have that internal competition. It just happens to be, when can it happen? So resources, time, it's usually time being the biggest factor. And then sometimes money for others, right? Ends up being like, okay, well, if I can make it happen here, how do I fit it into my lifestyle in order to meet that goal? Like I said, like it's just all different walks of life. And most of them I do end up meeting are personal trainers in some aspects. One of the fitness professionals I know who's in IFBB, he's also in Northern California. He's sponsored all over the place, goes to all these fitness expos, but he's a medical sales device a salesperson. And I'm
Like in
like,
Pursuit of Happiness, like Will Smith in Pursuit of
yeah,
Happiness.
exactly, exactly. And I'm like, how are you making this happen? Because, other people I know who are in that field, they are just bogged down with so
Mm,
much work to do, on a daily basis, long hours for those guys. I'm like, how are you making this happen? I had to approach him. I was like, even in my life, like, this is hard to make happen. I end up sacrificing sometimes my social life to make it happen. He was like, it's one thing at a time. You pick your days. And today's going to be all about family, and then the next day will be like back and focus on your fitness. But all throughout that, there's still some semblance of control, usually with food. Controlling your food throughout all of it. But it's taken me a while, and a lot of other professionals, a while to find where the balance is for them.
mhm.
And that's with everything that you do in life, right? It's not going to happen first time around. You got to reiterate and reiterate and reiterate before you kind of perfect the process or perfect your mindset in order to make things a lot easier for yourself. So, like, how I told you that I would sacrifice my social time, that happened a lot in the very beginning, so much so that I became a little depressed because I was always working, meal prepping, sleeping, or at the gym. That was my life, just to make it happen. That tunnel vision was a little extreme. So by the third time I did it, I found a way to control my mind so that I could go out to eat with friends, even while I was in competition prep. I'd either bring my own food, or I would eat beforehand,
Mhm.
or I would look at the menu ahead of time in order to know exactly what I was going to eat that was within my restraints,
Mm,
and still have a good time with my friends and recognize that food is not everything. The people I'm with is the focus, not the food.
mm.
So again, it's just kind of recaging what you see and allowing it to work for you, then fall victim to your emotions or what you really want, and all that stuff. So what you
Yeah.
want at that period of time. So yeah.
Now the battle around food and sugar and
Oh yeah. I got a sweet tooth. It's bad.
yeah, yeah. I have a personal trainer. We went to high school together, and it was, so and I have a lot of ebbs and flows around. I think most people do, how active they are. We're going to the
Mhm.
gym. We went into quarantine, and then it got kind of shaky for a lot of people, but
Yeah.
the real fitness people kind of find a way. But I follow a guy on YouTube named Mike Rashid. I don't know if you ever heard of him.
I know who that is. Yeah. I
Okay.
don't know him personally, but I know who he
Okay.
is. Yeah. Yeah.
Okay. So he does like this Alpha Shred 30-day challenge that I've been doing. And
How's it working?
I love it. I love it. I would take my, shirt off and everything, but it's a family show, So the part about it, I read this book called Stick With It, and it's about the science behind behavior change.
Oh yes. Yes. Yes.
And
Yes.
one of the aspects was community. And so with
Mm-hmm.
the Rashid challenge, the Alpha Shred challenge, it's like an online Facebook group, and they talk about people are going through the workouts together, and it's hilarious because people are all different areas of life, and they're just commenting on how much it sucks, right?
Yeah.
And that really helped me do the workout that day, because if it was just kind of me on my own, it would probably go like how it goes for me. Like I'll be consistent and I'll tail off, and you know.
Mm-hmm.
But then I also started doing something related to fasting. I was kind of testing out intermittent fasting, but I started doing something where I didn't eat anything on Monday. Like Monday, I just fasted all day, only drank liquid, and it kind of like changed my relationship to food throughout the week. Like
In the
I
sense,
was
like, you
really,
didn't need it, like you don't have to rely on it, or
yeah, I didn't have the cravings. Like it's just kind of a trip, because I mean I get emotional in my feelings. I want some sugar,
Mm,
but
mm,
but the cravings throughout the week to eat stuff, it hasn't been the same. I'm not saying that's the cure all for everybody, but the major battle was always around sugar, and then how I got the sugar was always really impulsive. You know, I'm at the grocery store, I'm gonna grab it. It's in the house. It's gonna get eaten.
yeah.
It's just like that whole thing. So,
And the biggest thing is just knowing yourself, knowing what you crave, why you crave it, when you
hmm
crave it, what is it that you crave,
hmm
and can you replicate the taste with something else that's healthier? Can you control the time or what the trigger was, and all that stuff? But it really is like a self analyzing process.
hmm
Yeah.
yeah.
I'm just going to
Outside of
share.
your work as a commercial pilot, Do you have any other business ventures, things that you are involved in?
So right now, I am a certified personal trainer, and I'm working on my nutritional coaching so that I can pair them together, and eventually behavior change as well. So I'm working on that business,
Okay.
just to proliferate that and share my experiences and share my my knowledge about everything. Just because, like, I feel like once you have control of yourself, physically, mentally, with your food, your intake, and being nourished in that aspect, and kind of balancing it with the life that you have, you can put that in whatever environment that you want to, but it takes some practice, some mental practice, some physical practice. But I would love to share that and really spread that. Other than that, I really love real estate.
Okay.
Yeah.
Let's talk about it. Okay.
Okay.
Okay. Sounds like you got some stuff popping. What's going on in your real estate life?
I mean, so I don't know why, but while I was in pilot training in Corpus Christi, I got this bug to buy my first house. I don't know, I could not tell you why, but well, I mean, I can kind of get to the origin of like how it may have a seed was planted. When I was 18, a senior in high school, my mom took part of my college funds and was like, hey, we're going to learn about this real estate course. And so she put that into the real estate course, and she's like, all right, you're going to come with me. I was like, okay. So I think this is more for her education, and I just happened to come along with her because it was during my summer break. And I was like, okay, well, this was interesting. She ended up getting a coach to do one-on-one stuff, and I absorbed a lot. Being a kid, kids tend to be a little bit more fearless because they don't look at all the scary stuff around, and they just kind of go for it half the time. That's why they're okay with falling and breaking legs and all that stuff. And I remember doing exactly what the coach said and like scouting out neighborhoods, seeing what's available, what opportunities are out there. And I came across this estate sale, and I ended up looking around the estate sale, looking inside the house, looking at all the stuff in the estate sale. And I was like, I like this house. And so without any reservations whatsoever, I went up to the host of the estate sale who, were relatives of the owner. And I was like, hey, would you take this offer for your house? And they're like, yeah. I was like, oh, okay, let me go talk to my mom. So that was technically, my mom ended up buying the house. We stayed in that house for about a year, and she still owns it today. So that's part of her retirement plan now. But that was the first house I ever put an offer on. Now, fast forward to when I'm in pilot training in Corpus Christi, I get the bug all of a sudden to just buy a house on my own accord. I researched for about 3 weeks about financing because I didn't know anything about that part, and figured out how I could apply for a loan and all that stuff. So went and found a house and bought it. Bam. I bought my first house when I was like 22. From then on out, every place I would go, which wasn't a lot of places with the military, I would buy a house. And the only place where I didn't buy a house was in Japan because of, you need to be a national there. And then when I knew I was going to come to California, I was like, all right, buying a house. It's California. You got to take advantage. And at that time, that's when a lot of the real estate in California was under foreclosure or short sales. And to my surprise, when I would put in an offer from overseas, mind you, sight unseen, I would just be looking on Google Earth, about the neighborhood, about the house, and doing all my research online. I would be outbid with cash, like so much money over offering. I was like, what the hell is going on? I thought there were foreclosures and short sales over there. This was the summer that things were starting to get better in California.
It was like 2011, 2012?
It was 2013.
Okay, 13.
Yeah.
Got it.
Yeah, you kind of get a little fearless after you buy your first house. And then I did the same thing when I bought full-on investment property in another state, sight unseen. I didn't see the house for about a year, but just looked at the numbers, again, looked at everything I could find on the internet and kind of did my analysis that way. And I still have that house. So, and that one's a duplex. Yeah. So I if I had the capital and the means and pretty much like the network, I would buy homes just like I buy shoes. Like it's,
Mhm.
I got a lot of shoes. So it's just, I find it just fun. I find,
Uh-huh.
looking, the analyzing the market, the seeing what's around, how I can contribute to the community around it. Like
Mhm.
I find all of that fun,
Mm.
just a blast. Because to me, it's kind of like thinking about the future. Like, oh, I envision this place being like this, and this is the type of community it could be, and all that stuff. And this is how the tenants would be, and I would say hi to the tenants so often and have a
Mhm.
relationship with them. Like, that's how my mind works. Is like, what if?
Mm.
And ultimately, my dream is to actually purchase like a small apartment complex, like, 8 to 15 units, something like that. I don't need or want anything more than that. And then actually like have some kind of community events
Mhm.
with that particular complex. It could either be the apartment complex itself or 15 units within like a couple of blocks. Just I feel like success is being able to contribute back to your community. And because I'm a military person, I don't have one community. I have a few that I've been part of.
Mm.
So I don't have a home community, I guess you can say. So just being able to improve all these places that I've been part of would just be a joy to me. I think that would be so great.
I actually love real estate too. I used to listen to the Bigger Pockets podcast all the time. I don't know if you
You
ever
don't
heard of
need
that.
more?
Nah, I don't. I don't. I read like a lot of Grant Cardone books, and
Hmm.
I don't know if you heard of him.
Yep, I have.
And I was running a nonprofit for 4.5 years, and I ended up moving. One of the many reasons why I wanted to step away from that was, and I now run a consulting practice, was to put myself in a position to grow my income so I could then just allocate that capital to investments. And
Okay,
so
nice.
when I
Yes.
did that, though, I became no longer qualified for any of the mortgages because I had to have 2 years of tax return. The whole thing.
Yep.
And so, but
Mhm.
looking at long distance real estate was something that I was really into, and getting sort of a string of single families and then leveraging them into
Something bigger.
multi-unit developments was something I was into. You sound
Mhm.
like the catch of a lifetime: pilot, bodybuilder, real estate tycoon. I'm sure shoe aficionado.
They're not cute shoes according to my sister, but I like a lot of
Okay.
shoes. Yeah.
Yeah, and I'm sure there's probably other things that you didn't share that are also really impressive. So let's close out on that. What's that? You talked about your social life. What's sort of that look like for you? Do you have time for that? Or are you?
Yeah, actually, and part of the reason why I left active duty military was to have a more robust social life. So, I feel again like a lot of the real estate gurus that you spoke of. I have learned to value time and make it a luxury. It is a luxury. Time is a luxury, and it would be great if you have money as well to pretty much run your lifestyle, right? So I've pared down my lifestyle quite a bit because the last 2 years were very, very challenging. Leaving active duty military and then going into another field that I was not familiar with, and military has been my job my entire adult life. So it was just a lot of anxiety with it. So switching all of that, ultimately my goal was to have more time for relationships of all sorts. So nowadays I am very blessed. I put in a bunch of time in order to get here, a lot of sacrifices to get here. And, every weekend, I'm able to enjoy time with friends or family. I spend more time outside and in nature. I'm a
Mhm.
forestry major, so I love being outside. And hence why a dynamic pilot job. But these are just basic joys that I get no matter what.
Mhm.
And like I said, I'm just so blessed to be able to have that now. I'm learning how to make cocktails.
Yeah.
I would never had the chance to do that.
Uh,
I'm recently a little bit more plant-based in my diet. And I love experimenting with cooking. So I get more time to do that too. And a lot of people are pretty annoyed about being home these days. And I have just been overjoyed to be able to enjoy my house,
mhm.
enjoy where I live, find the little nooks and crannies that just are delightful, and I think people take advantage of the fact that they have a home. I'm really relishing being home. So it's been nice. It's been really nice.
I have a few final rapid fire questions before we close out.
All right.
You ready?
Yeah, game on.
Okay, cool. You always ready. You. Okay. Do you meditate?
I do.
Okay. What is one book recommendation you would give?
Ooh. Off the top of my head, The One Thing. Yeah. So that just kind of helps with, prioritizing, and at different stages of your life. Yeah. So that'd be the big one right there.
Okay. What personal weakness can you forgive in someone?
A personal weakness I can forgive in someone. Over time, I can forgive anything.
Okay. Okay.
Just got to give time. Yeah.
Okay. Do you have a motto?
So, yes. Care, compassion, connection. That's been my driving force for a lot of things that I do. Okay. Yeah. Mm-hmm.
And who's going to win the presidential election?
Ooh, I have no idea. I have no idea. I have a lot of conservative friends and non-conservative friends, and I can tell you, I would like to think I have a good grasp on, just around my own environment of, what people are thinking. And I honestly could not tell you. I see why some people want theirs, but I can't tell you. I have no idea.
That was the last question. This was Alexis Rose, a pilot, veteran, fitness guru, shoe aficionado, real estate tycoon, the catch of the quarantine and of all time. We didn't get into if she's speaking the other languages or if she knows how to do 30 backflips in a row, but I'm sure that's probably somewhere in her resume also. You can learn more. I'll put Alexis's Instagram up on the screen. Hopefully you can check her out if you're interested in improving your fitness goals or investing in real estate, or you want to become a pilot and touch the sky like she does on a regular basis. Thank you, Miss Rose. I appreciate the time.
Thank you. I appreciate it.
Peace, and thank you for listening to another episode of Cook on Monday Morning. At Cook on Monday Morning, we believe that if you own Monday morning, you can own the week. If you own the week, you can own the year. And if you change your year, you can change your life. I'd like to thank Alexis Steel-Rose for sharing her journey with me. This was really amazing to meet somebody that's had such a varied path and taken on multiple challenging endeavors. She's a pilot. She's a fitness expert. She's a real estate investor. I don't know what she can't do. So meeting people like her are especially inspiring. She represents the doers, the builders, the makers of things that we want to build community with and elevate on this platform, Cook on Monday Morning. As you know, if you are a frequent listener at Cook on Monday Morning, we've transitioned to Cook on Quarantine, where I'm releasing episodes every Monday, Wednesday, and Friday. And so stay up to date with the latest episode by subscribing on YouTube, by subscribing on Apple, by following on Spotify. Thank you for doing that. If you haven't done that yet and you're still with us, hit the subscribe button, hit the like button. It's easy. It's free. And you help me and you help this community grow. You're a part of this tribe. And so thank you for listening, and please subscribe. Please comment. This podcast is owned by the Luther Harris Holding Company. That is my strategic advising and consulting practice. Luther Harris was my great-grandfather. He represented a legacy of doing. And so I built all of my companies under his name. And at my company, what we do is help nonprofits and startups meet their strategic objectives. Also work with larger businesses to help their diversity hiring initiatives and to help drive the impact they want to have in the communities that they serve. So if that is something that you're interested in, I'd be happy to talk to you. Feel free to email me. It's info@Stevon Cook. You can also connect with me on social media at LinkedIn. On LinkedIn, I'm at Stevon Cook. On Instagram, at Stevon Cook. On Twitter, at Stevon Cook. On Facebook, at Stevon Cook. Yes, and you pronounce my name Stevon, not Stevon. I know it's a communist pronunciation, but don't worry about it. If you've been doing it for like 15 years, it's cool. You can start saying it correctly now. It's Stevon. the E is long. I want to make a few more quick announcements. We have merchandise coming. Merchandise is coming. I've been saying it for a minute, but trust me, it's coming. You could be the first to see it by subscribing to my newsletter. If you go to stevoncook.com, put your email address in, you will not only be the first to see when the merchandise is coming, but I'll also send out several insights related to the podcast or other stories. And it's a great way to support what we're building here. Subscribe to the newsletter. It's at stevoncook.com. Another way to support the podcast is if you're on the website, you'll see the bookshelf tab. Go to the bookshelf tab, you'll see a number of books. Feel free to check out the books. You can purchase one if you like. But even if you don't, if you go through that tab before you do your Amazon shopping, whatever you end up purchasing, a kickback will come to the podcast. It's through the affiliate marketing program. So that is a great way to support and help cover the cost of the podcast. Obviously, this all comes out of my pocket. We don't have any sponsors yet, and so it's all supported by the people. So thank you for supporting. Thank you for keeping this in mind by doing that before you do any Amazon shopping. We're doing something nice for our single mothers. It's not like a huge spa day that I like to put together, but it's just a small gesture. The women in our community that are raising children on their own, we just want to do something nice. I'll take them out. The idea is that she and whoever she decides to go with has a night out. We can cover childcare for the evening. I know it's a pandemic, so we make sure we take care of all the safety precautions. But yeah, the idea is just to treat a single mother and a friend to a night out. So if you know anybody that you think would be interested in that, just send me an email, info@Stevon Cook. Just tell me a little bit about the person, 3 or 4 sentences, a way I can get a hold of them. Email is fine. And we will make sure that we treat them to a night out. I can do it at the rate of about twice per month, the way my bank account is set up. That's a capacity that I can do it at. I want to thank the people that make this podcast possible, Mr. David Topete. Thank you, sir. Mr. Fernando Cinco Marquez. I appreciate you also, sir, for editing the newsletter. And I just want to end the podcast by showcasing a testament of love to all the people that inspired me to do this work. They are our first responders, our firefighters, our police officers, our EMT workers, our social workers. They are our educators. They are our custodians, our school lunch workers. They are our bus drivers like my father. They clean our streets. They are our blue-collar workers. And they are our employers, our people that are giving of themselves to build, to help grow our economy, to help give purpose to people's lives and help people take care of their family. To the builders, this podcast is for you. And this podcast is for our gig workers, the people that are stocking our shelves, delivering food, getting us to and fro, and rideshare services, exposing themselves to this vicious pandemic. This podcast is for you. I appreciate you. Thank you. So this podcast is for those folks, and they are in cities like San Francisco, my hometown, Oakland, Los Angeles, Dallas, Houston, New Orleans, Baton Rouge, Miami, Orlando, the Carolinas, Philadelphia, Newark, Atlanta, if I didn't say that already, Cleveland, Minneapolis, Detroit, Boston. This podcast is for you. Thank you for listening. Thank you for connecting with me and helping grow this community. I appreciate you. Until I see you again. Peace, and we out.